Hello everybody, it's Catherine and it's nearly the end of March now, and what a fantastic March we've had. This has been a fantastic month with hashtag March Mystery Madness. There's been all sorts of things going on across the booktube community, and I'm hoping that you've all enjoyed participating and getting some great bookish ideas from everybody. So today I'm just going to wrap up what I read in the month of March, and there are a few that I DNF'd this month, and I'll discuss those when we get to them. I think partly they weren't the suitable content that I wanted to read at the moment. Quite a few of the books I've read have been nice light-hearted reads, and I had a few from NetGalley which I'm sure are going to be excellent books, but there were a lot to do with grief and death and that sort of thing, and really I just can't face that at the moment with recently losing mum. So yeah, we'll talk about them later. So first one, Death at the Manor. This is one that is on my Kindle, and I'd also got it on one of my TBRs that I showed you. I've got this down as historical for the tagline historical for March Mystery Madness, and this is just a cosy crime. It's well written. It's a novella actually. I didn't realise that it was such a short read, but actually it packed a nice storyline, a nice cast of characters into a short space of time, and actually if you just want something nice and easy to read, yeah, it was enjoyable. I gave it 3 stars. Then next, another one from my e-reader TBR is Something Borrowed, Something Dead by MC Beaton, and this obviously with borrowed in the title fits the bill for the borrowed category. Oh, I'm sorry, I really didn't like this character, Agatha Raisin, and I know you'll all shoot me because she's a well-loved character. Many people really love her. I don't know if it's because I've not started from the beginning, but I didn't like her. I just couldn't warm to her. I like MC Beaton's writing. I found this plot ploddy. I found it uninteresting. I didn't really feel that Agatha Raisin had got any sort of commitment really to a job in this, and no, sorry, it wasn't for me. I gave it 2 stars. I noticed looking back on Goodreads and some other reviews that people feel that the early ones they loved. Many people didn't find this particular one very engaging, so it might well be the one I chose, but no, I didn't really like Agatha. She's not like my Hamish Macbeth. No, definitely not like Hamish. So next, Hammered. This is the first one in Mrs. Fixit mystery series by Belle. Knudson, I think it is, Knudson. This is again it was on my e-reader list, and if you remember I got, I think it's 16, a box set of 16 for 99 pence, and I thought, right, you know, what are these going to be like for the money? And I have to say that I gave this 3 stars. I enjoyed it. It features our main character Kay Flaherty, and she lives in a small town in America. And although I've put this down for shelf, for category shelf, it could easily fit foreign as well, but I put this down from my Kindle shelf. And she actually is a carpenter. She's taken over her father's business, so she's a carpenter and joiner, and that's hence the name Mrs. Fixit. And I really liked her character. She's quite gutsy. She's sort of been able to carve out a business for herself in this small town, and it's one of those where she's gone back, everybody's business is known. I think she had a bit of a fling with the chief of police when they were youngsters, so I can feel there's a little bit of a re-spark going on there. But yeah, there's a murder involved in the small town, and obviously she ends up getting involved in some ways because of her connection with the chief of police, and I really enjoyed it. So actually I'm going to carry on with that series. It looks like it's going to be worth the 99 pence, 3 stars. Next, right, we've actually got a real book here. This is The Battle of Life and Death, and this is one of my Ellie Alexander. This is book 2 in the Bake Shop Mystery series, and yeah, I think this is going to be a series that I really enjoy. Our main character was working on a cruise ship, so she's come home back to her hometown. It's another one coming back to a small town in America. Her mum has got a bakery and cafe, and she's come back to help her there. So there's quite a lot of cake baking and lovely recipes and things like that in this series. Yeah, there's a murder that goes on, and unfortunately she seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, does Jules, and so she's involved in it. There's a film crew come to do a baking competition, a bit like, you know, what do we have, the Bake Off, Great British Bake Off, and it's happening in her town, and obviously somebody gets murdered. But yeah, well written, lovely cosy crime. Obviously we've got some nice baking in there. Didn't quite like the plot as much as book 1. I gave it 3.5. But yeah, lovely series. I'm really starting to like the character development in this, and yeah, I'm going to be sending for book 3. So let's have a look what we've got next. I've got 2 books here with them all written down. Right, next, Mrs. Saint and the Defectives. Now, I sent for this because I thought it said, it shows how bad my eyesight is, I thought it said Mrs. Saint and the Detectives. I thought, yes, this is great, this will really fit the bill. No, Mrs. Saint and the Defectives. But anyway, from the blurb you get the impression that it's a mystery, and it would really be a great book to read. But I have to say that I DNF'd it, mainly because as you're going along you realise it's not a mystery at all. I think it's a lot about characters, again in a small town, where there's an old lady who's got her gang of, it's as if she takes in all these waifs and strays and looks after them, bless her. And new neighbours moved in, and I think they've moved because there's a lady and her son, because they've got some trials and tribulations going on. So I think it's another set of people for Mrs. Saint to take under her wing. So I think it will be a nice read, but it wasn't what I wanted for this moment in time, so I put it back on my TBR shelf. And next, what we're going to go to next, I think we'll go to Bruno, Chief of Police, book 4. Trying to get it so it's not so, yeah. Book 4, this is The Crowded Grave by Martin Walker, and yes, really enjoyed this. This is the continuation of Bruno's life, the Chief of Police in Saint-Denis in France, and normally it's a quiet town, nothing much happens. You know, his policing is more of a community role, but there seems to be a lot of murders happening around there just lately. So we've got an archaeological team that's staying in Saint-Denis, and they're doing some archaeological work and uncover a skeleton that isn't actually that old, not as old as what they were expecting. So obviously we get a whole load of a murder inquiry. Yes, I've enjoyed this. It was more of a political, what's the word that I could say? More political rather than it being true crime. There was a lot in there about what had happened in the past in France, Nazi Germany, all about when people were you know, helping out and the resistance in the war. And there's quite a lot of political intrigue in this, which I found interesting, but not as crime orientated, shall we say, as the other ones. So I think that, you know, this series is developing into something a lot more complex than just a pure, oh, somebody's been murdered and Bruno will solve the crime. I think it's a lot more complex, more detailed, more, it's well written and had to be cleverly created, shall we say, in a way. So yeah, so I gave it 3.5, just because, you know, there's a difference between enjoyment of the plot that I love Bruno and his cast of characters. So there we go. Then, can't wait to get to this one. The Extinction Trials. Now this might be hard to see on camera because it's a bit dark. And this is by S.M. Wilson. This is a debut. It's just come out. I got this actually with subscription box to No Safer Place, her Zoe's channel. She does a subscription box. And this is down for Opposite. Now, I have to say that I'm not really, as you'll know, if you've been here a while, I'm not really a big lover of sci-fi, dystopian, other worlds, that sort of thing. And so this fits into that category really of being opposite to what I normally read, opposite to what's in my comfort zone. Because what we have is a dystopian world where everybody is very much controlled by the elite and people have a very hard life. Food and work is very hard to come by. People are starving. People are having to live in caves. It's a really dreadful existence, and it sort of makes you think that, you know, we're fortunate to have the life we have and enjoy it and make the most of it. You know, these had quite a rich lifestyle, quite a rich life, and then it all changed. Now, to be able to get out of this poverty, the elite set a set of trials every year, and they go over to another island which isn't inhabited by man, but it's the land of the dinosaurs. So it's got a, you know, a touch of Jurassic Park about it. And we've got our two main protagonists, Storm Chaser and Lincoln. And they are young adults. I don't know if they're 17, 18. They both have their own reasons for wanting to enter the trials, because they win money and they win work and they win food for the families, that sort of thing. However, these trials aren't for the faint-hearted. They're very dangerous. They are, how can we say, they enter into it knowing that not many people come back from them, shall we say that. So it's a really exciting book. It sort of has you gripping the edge of your seat when they're doing the trials. You know, you're really wanting them to do well and wanting them to actually succeed, because they are really quite difficult. There are a few traumatic scenes in here. There are scenes of death. So, you know, I think it's well covered in how, but people do die. And I'm just trying to see what else I've written down about it. I think you get into this straight away. I really was enjoying the plot development, the character development, the world building. Now, you know, I smile because this isn't my sort of thing, and I hear other booktubers going, oh yeah, and the world building was beautiful and it was this and it was that, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm not sure what you're on about. But I do now have read this, because when you get over to this world, it's very descriptive, the beautiful countryside, a bit like the rainforest, and then you've got the sea and the beaches, really beautiful descriptors. But then you've got all this nasty side with the dinosaurs and the, you know, and everything that the trials throw at them. So I think it's very compelling, and I think you should give it a try. I think it's, you know, you soon find out that Lincoln and Storm Chaser have to work, they have to trust each other, they have to work as a team with some other people, and I think friendship and trust and loyalty are very strong themes throughout this book. I loved it. I can't wait, there's a second one coming out soon. And yeah, really shocked myself at that one. So that's the Extinction Trials, S.M. Wilson. And finally, there's a few more, but I'm going to, I haven't got all my information together about them, so I'm going to do a part 2 with the last few bits and bobs and ones that have come out, that are coming out this month from the publishers as well, but I'll do that in part 2. So finally, another 5-star read for me, Don't Let Go, by Michelle Boussy. Now, you'll recall that I have read a couple of Michelle Boussy's. They are translated from the French. I read Blackwater Lilies, and which I loved. After the Crash, I wasn't as keen on. And this is translated by Sam Taylor, from the French by Sam Taylor. And wow, this packs a punch. It's a psychological crime set on in the French, I wouldn't say Indies, in the French colonies, you know, in the islands in, are they in India? I'm trying to think if they're in India now. I can't remember my geography now, but anyway. And so we've got a couple of families that go on holiday, on this exotic holiday. It's a bit like this Death in Paradise setting. You see that on the television. And, well, yeah, I won't say much because it'll just spoil it all. But it's a psychological thriller. There's a young girl in that does some of the narrating. She's 6, and actually it's well narrated as a child. I often don't like child narrators, but well narrated by her, as well as the story of what's going on with her mother and father. Her mother goes missing, presumed dead, and it's twists and turns and sitting on the edge of your seat. Fabulous, I loved it. I couldn't put it down. So that's Don't Let Go, Michelle Boussy. He has got another one coming out in April, his latest. So there we go. That's the end of part 1 for my wrap up for March Mystery Madness, and I'll see you again soon for part 2. Bye for now.